He let his Great Dane take a massive dump on my prize-winning hydrangeas, so I used the HOA bylaws to legally dismantle his life. I know that sounds petty, like Karen-level petty, but you have to understand, this wasn't about flowers anymore. It was about dominance. So grab a snack, sit down, and hear me out on how I completely ruined a man. Let me introduce you to the bane of my existence. Let's call him Brad. Brad was the human equivalent of a popped collar. He was a 40-year-old man who still acted like he was rushing a frat house. He drove a lifted truck that sounded like a dying jet engine, wore mirrored Oakley sunglasses indoors, and always smelled like cheap body spray and entitlement. But the worst part was his dog, Tank. Tank was a Great Dane the size of a small horse, and Brad treated leash laws like friendly suggestions. For months, I had been cultivating these hydrangeas. I'm talking babying them, checking the soil pH, buying expensive organic feed, pruning them with surgical precision. They were stunning, blue, vibrant, massive blooms. They were the only thing bringing me joy during a miserable, depressive episode. Then came the Tuesday. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I saw it. Brad was standing on the sidewalk, scrolling on his phone, oblivious. Tank had wandered 5 feet into my yard and was squatting directly over my prize bush. I froze. I watched in slow-motion horror as this beast unleashed a biological weapon right into the heart of my flowers. The stems snapped. The blooms were crushed under the weight of the dog and the sheer volume of the mess. Brad looked up, saw me staring through the window, and just shrugged. He didn't clean it up. He smirked, yanked the leash, and walked away. I stormed out there, shouting, "Hey, you going to clean that up?" Brad didn't even turn around. He just waved a dismissive hand over his shoulder. "It's fertilizer, bro. Chill out. It'll wash away." I went to the HOA president, Linda. I showed her the crushed flowers. I showed her the mess. Linda, who usually fines people for having the wrong shade of beige curtains, sighed. "Without video proof of the dog actually doing it, it's just he said, she said. Maybe build a fence?" I couldn't build a fence, because of the damn HOA rules. That night I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to Brad blasting terrible EDM from his backyard hot tub at 2:00 a.m. Something inside my brain just clicked. It wasn't a snap. It was a cold, hard reset. If Brad wanted to play it loose with the rules, I was going to become the rules. I pulled out my laptop and downloaded the community bylaws. All 140 pages of them. I read them like I was studying for the bar exam. I memorized the clauses on noise, setbacks, vehicle weight limits, and aesthetic uniformity. Then I bought a drone and a high-res camera with a telephoto lens. It was time to go to work. I started small to test the waters. I went out and measured his grass. The bylaws state grass cannot exceed 4 inches. Brad S. was at 5'2". I took a photo with a ruler for scale, time-stamped it, and submitted it via the anonymous portal. Result, $50 fine. I watched Brad from my window, looking confused as he checked the mail. A week later, I noticed his trash cans were still out at 6:00 p.m. on pickup day. Rule 4.2, cans must be stowed by 5:00 p.m. Click, submit. Result, $75 fine. I watched him kick the can across the driveway in a fit of rage. Then I escalated. I dug up the plot maps for his property and noticed something interesting about that custom shed he bragged about constantly. It looked close to the property line,